Rural, Chapter 1, by R.G. Michaels. We're going to start this story off with a bang, but not the one from a fast-paced action sequence or some high-stakes drama. Oh no, our bang comes from my head hitting the glass of a moving truck's passenger side window. Okay, maybe it was a bump, not a bang. Who am I kidding anyways? My name is Chris Weeks, and this is how my life changed, in what may be the worst time to have change happen in my life, by moving in the last year of high school. I was sleeping while my mom drove a moving truck, and somewhere before we left Ontario on the 401 highway east, I fell asleep out of boredom and the subtle hopes that moving was just a dream that I could wake up from. Maybe dramatically, in a cold sweat, but with no real consequences. It wasn't, though. So I woke up in a bumpy cube van about an hour east of Montreal in the rain. We'd been driving for what seemed like a day. It was more likely 7 hours, and the slight jarring glance off the window was enough to bring me back to the land of the woke. "You okay, honey?" my mom asked, as if her driving somehow did more damage to my head than the idea of moving my entire life to another province my senior year of high school. "Yeah, I'm fine," I grunted. "Where are we?" I asked more out of habit and politeness than one of specific information. After all, there wasn't a real big chance of the answer being still in Toronto. "About 2 hours from Quebec City," Mom said. The tone of her voice was grossly positive, and it was noticeably focused on where we were going, not where we were coming from. "Okay," I said, and I tried to fall back asleep in the jostling seat. This wasn't a dream or a nightmare, though it sure felt like the latter. It was real, and we were moving. Moving so Mom could have a better job. Moving so I could be close to my absentee dad. Moving in a truck that for this little point in our lives seemed to be getting nowhere but still heading anywhere from everything normal in my real life. We were moving to New Brunswick from Toronto. To give you an idea of the scale of that change, the city of Toronto has 2.25 times more a population than the entire province of New Brunswick. The urban-rural dynamic was beginning to sink in, to say the least. When we finally stopped at a busy French highway truck stop, Mom pulled up to refuel, and I jumped out to take a piss. It was 6 o'clock. My stomach was starting to protest. I didn't want to bother Mom with it, so I stayed quiet and hoped that she was just as hungry as I was. I weaved through the lanes of the diesel pumps and opened a door to the gas bar and restaurant to find their facilities. After a quick unload and some cold water in my face, I headed back to the truck, assuming we were going to hit the road again, and I couldn't see the truck. It was gone. And for a split second, I thought I had lost everything. When I came back out, the big white van was gone from the gas stall, and I stood there, entertaining what could honestly be the worst thoughts a teenager could have about his mom. How could she just leave me? Did she really just forget about me? Everything along those lines floated in my mind like noise of the busy diner's patrons, all speaking a language I didn't really know but took from grade 7 through 9, all while carrying on as if it didn't matter. I kept staring out the window of the gas station until the doors of the women's bathroom opened and my mom walked out behind me. "Ready to eat?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, trying to forget all the horrible assumptions I made about my mom's parenting just then. She had parked the truck just after getting gas, and it proved how accurately disparaging teenage stereotypes can be. The food was as good as diner food goes, and I'm not sure if any of you readers have had authentic French poutine before, but it's just about as good as it gets. When you're depressed, slightly scared, and mad at a lot of unknowns in your life. It tastes amazing, like the last bits of gravy caught in a dinner roll on your plate after Thanksgiving. But warm. And the cheese, oh God, the cheese will change your life. Who would have known cheese curds could be so delectable? Most of all, it hit the spot, and we hopped back in the truck, which Mom had moved around to the side. Soon enough, we got back on the highway. We caught a rainstorm outside Rivière-du-Loup. It's a kind of major turning point for those heading to New Brunswick through Quebec. Mom pulled over at another truck stop, and we said we'd weather it out for a bit. She was already driving a huge truck that was about 4 times the size of our car we drove, which was on a trailer to the back of said truck. I still don't know how adults learn these kinds of things, but I remember I can't remember my mom ever taking a moving truck driving course with additional car trailer training, and I sure don't cover that in high school driver's ed. Something they also don't cover is French. Now, they do teach French in Canadian high schools, but I never learned it. I learned enough to pass until grade 9, where I took the option to drop it for quite literally anything else. I lived in southern Ontario, and I didn't run into any people speaking French unless I was in French class. But now I was moving to New Brunswick, a bilingual province while slightly outside of northeastern Quebec. I needed an energy drink and some directions for Mom. This, of all places, is where I realized there is no such thing as a droppable course. Sure, high school band was fun, but I have never needed to suddenly and mission critically been able to play a saxophone. And yet here I was trading misused adverbs with a teenager behind the till, who obviously took band instead of English as well and was hoping I too played the saxophone. and for a solid 10 minutes we tried to speak to each other just to confirm where we were and to get some caffeine into me. Mom slept for about 4 hours, and I dozed off beside her. We huddled in our hoodies and made the most of our truck stop campout. It was almost midnight, and I fell asleep despite the energy drink. I was conked out too. Just as the sun was starting to turn the sky blue again, and the next morning, my mom fired up the truck and began driving. I should have known better than to try to continue my sleep. But when you're moving in your life, you get greedy and selfish, so I kept my eyes closed, clinging to the comfort of the darkness behind my eyelids, as it was the only thing I still had a grasp on as essentially mine. I could at very least keep my eyes closed, if nothing else. I dipped in and out of sleep for the first few miles. Then a slight dip in the road jostled the cab moving the van, and bang! My head hit the same spot it did before, with an almost noticeable bruise was forming from where the window kept hitting my skull. Ow, I said, forcing a giggle out of my mom. See? A bang. What'd I tell you? That's chapter 1. Hope you guys like it. Drew a lot of experience from my own moving to New Brunswick. This isn't an autobiographical work. I'm not Chris Weeks in this, and we'll talk about that more with like an introduction video that we're going to do. But yeah, that's chapter 1. Hope you guys liked it.